Real faith means I don't have to believe it. It's already true. So, why does a Rebbe put on tefillin? Because he's a genius and understands the meaning of it? Does he put on the tefillin because he loves God so much? Does he put on the tefillin because he's in awe of God? No. He puts on tefillin because he's a Jewish man, and a Jewish man puts on tefillin. And so it's quite logical for him to see another Jewish man and say, hey, wear your tefillin. Because it would be the same thing. If you're putting on tefillin because you're a Jew, well then every Jew is equally Jewish. So that's why many people, when the Rebbe started the tefillin campaign to stop people in the street and put on tefillin with them, most religious authorities said, what is the purpose of that? Why are you doing that? Is it even allowed? Is it kosher? Should people who don't keep kosher, who don't keep Shabbat, who are married out of the faith, should they be putting on tefillin? Maybe not. Some even said, if they didn't wash their hands ritually in the morning, maybe they shouldn't touch the tefillin. There are all sorts of reservations, hesitations, and arguments. And of course, the biggest argument was, what have you accomplished? So you got him to put on tefillin. He's still not keeping kosher. He's still not going to yeshiva. He's still not keeping Shabbat. What have you accomplished? See, those people are thinking you do a mitzvah if you love God. You do a mitzvah if you believe in God. You do a mitzvah if you're in awe of God. These people are not. So why are you asking them to put on tefillin? To the Rebbe, the reason he puts on tefillin is because he's a Jew. Not because he also keeps Shabbos and he also keeps kosher, but because he's a Jew. And nobody is less Jewish, nobody is more Jewish. No Jew. So if I put on tefillin because I'm Jewish, and you're just as Jewish, well then you should have tefillin too. That's called focused on the truth, on the simple, unadorned truth. Somebody asked me once, he says, people are telling him that he should keep kosher. He doesn't understand. He has never kept kosher in his life. Why should he? And he wanted a very simple, convincing answer. So I said to him, because non-Jews don't. Non-Jews don't keep kosher. He thought about it for a moment and he said, okay. Non-Jews don't keep kosher. Why? Because they don't love God? Because they don't fear God? Non-Jews don't keep kosher because kosher is a Jewish thing, and they're not Jewish. Not that it would do any harm, by the way. But they're not obligated because it's a Jewish thing. So if they don't do it because it's Jewish, what are you asking? Why should you? Because you are Jewish. And kosher is a Jewish thing. So what is your question? Why should a Jew be Jew? Why should a Jew do like a Jew does? Well, what's the question? Why does a fish swim in water? You don't need an answer. It is the truth. So if you keep kosher because you're a Jew, that's perfect. If you keep kosher because you love God, that's impressive. It's not perfect. Because if you didn't love God, then you don't need to put on tefillin. If you don't love God, you don't need to keep Shabbat. So, love is a very strong motivation, of course. But the truth is an even better motivation. It's Jewish, I am a Jew, that's it. No further questions. So a Rebbe is somebody whose soul is completely focused on the truth, the simple, unadorned truth, which is so amazing, so much more powerful, so much more convincing than the greatest love, the greatest fear, the greatest genius. And because the Rebbe belongs to the people, that focus on the truth becomes the focus of all the people of his generation. Where's the truth? What's the truth? There are many outreach organizations in Jewish life. In fact, every major Jewish organization does outreach. And if you don't do outreach, you're not even a player. But there are different ways of doing outreach. There's a style which you intellectually challenge people and convince them that Torah is in fact what it claims to be, and that observing mitzvahs is intellectually consistent, it's rational, it's sensible, and so they start to do mitzvahs. There are those who use emotion. It's so beautiful, it's so loving, it's good for the family, it's good for your marriage, God loves you. Strong motivation, so they do mitzvahs. But then there's also the approach of truth itself. So the Rebbe, when he started the Tefillin campaign, launched this now international project where you stop a man in the street and say, "Excuse me, are you Jewish?" That is the most powerful thing you can say. Imagine stopping a guy in the street saying, "Do you believe in God?" That would be a long conversation, probably inconclusive. Maybe I do, a little bit I do, maybe I don't. I used to, I will when I get older. I mean, it's not getting directly to the core, to the jugular. Say, do you love God? Are you in awe of God? Could make for interesting conversation, but it's not getting to the point. But when you stop a Jewish man and say, "Are you Jewish?" you have gotten right to his soul. You've cut right through all of it. And it doesn't matter whether he believes in God or doesn't, whether he loves God or hates him, it doesn't matter. You're a Jew. Well, what are you doing about that? That's the Rebbe. The Rebbe is the shepherd of the generation who imparts his focus on all the souls of his generation. And the Rebbe's focus is always the truth. The truth. Starting with the first Chabad Rebbe, 7 generations ago, who in his highest moments of what would otherwise be ecstasy, the Rebbe would say, "I don't want heaven, I don't want angels, I don't want paradise, I just want you." That means, of all divine attributes, I'm really not interested. Just you. Just you yourself. What does that mean? Love of God, fear of God? It means God. God without condition. He doesn't have to be lovable, he doesn't have to be fearsome or awesome. He's God. What more do you want? And I'm a Jew. What more do I want? So I do what God created Jews to do. And if I'm a non-Jew, well, then I do what God created non-Jews to do. Unadorned, unembellished, without imposing my preferences. I would prefer a God who's a little more kind, Or I would prefer a God who is a little more strict. I would prefer a God who is a little more understandable. Don't do that. This is our Creator. This is our God. Let the truth speak for itself. That is the blessing that the Rebbe brought to our generation. And it's interesting that the previous Rebbe chose America to be the center for the Chabad schools and life. Why America? Americans had, hopefully we still have, this purity, this artless, simple faith. They were escaping the religiosity of Europe, the fanaticism, the extremism, the exclusivity where one cannot tolerate the other, or the religious cannot tolerate the non-religious. That was not focused on the truth. Each one focused on an aspect of godliness, and that aspect excluded the other aspects. And so if you weren't religious the way I'm religious, you were not welcome. Americans came away from that. They simply wanted to be there for God, without the shtick, without the embellishments. And they almost succeeded. Unfortunately, some of the embellishments made it over the ocean. It came along on the journey. But the quality of simplicity was greater in America than any other country, including Israel. And so the Rebbe chose to come here. What is the truth? Just the truth. Just real. Hollywood, of course, was a great distraction from that. Hollywood is anything but the truth, because the truth is not dramatic. The truth is not glamorous. The truth is not scary. It is what it is. So that's what a Rebbe is. A Rebbe is a soul, a godly soul, completely devoted to the simple truth which he is compelled to share with his generation, with the rest of the world. And if you've read any of the books that came out on the Rebbe, the biographies, that's the story. That's what you're going to read. A man completely devoted to improving the world with only one weapon: truth. Just stick to the truth. The truth does not need to be embellished. If you feel a need to embellish, you're probably off target. You don't get it. President Reagan was going to Russia for the first time to speak to, I think it was Brezhnev at the time. The Rebbe advised President Reagan not to criticize communism. Don't talk about what's wrong with communism. Just talk about what is true, like human rights. Inalienable, God-given. Don't get distracted on a detail or on an aspect or on one quality. Go straight to the truth. And Reagan did that. He stayed focused. So when we celebrate the Rebbe's Yahrzeit, again this year on the 2nd of July, it's a very good time to tap into the Rebbe's energy, which is more available on that day than any other day of the year, and to reset our focus. back to focusing on what is really true. Not what I feel, not what I think, but what's really true, with or without me. And that's what real faith means. Real faith means I don't have to believe it. It's already true. So even if I refuse to believe in it, it would still be true. So it's not my belief that I'm excited about. It's the truth, as it is. There's one more feature to a great soul, a great tzaddik, and that is his physical presence is obviously a blessing to the world, but even without the physical presence, the Rebbe is very much present. Because when you deal in truth, you never become irrelevant. See, other great souls made their contribution to the world and then passed away, and years later, their contribution is not so relevant anymore. Maybe not even so true anymore. But when your focus has always been on the truth, then the fact that you're not physically present doesn't change anything. Your influence remains the same. Your message is the same. Your legacy is the same. The inspiration you provided, it's the same. And that's why, after the Rebbe passed away, the Chabad system not only didn't collapse, it tripled. It tripled in size. What's the secret? The secret is no secret. No secret. No gimmicks. No nothing. Just the truth. Jews were created to live Jewish lives. Well, guess what? Every Jew knows this, and every Jew feels this, and every Jew wants this. There's been a breakdown of education, of transmission of information. Yeah, we got a little distracted by World War II. Very distracted. It interrupted the flow of tradition, the flow of information, the flow of knowledge, and so many Jews simply don't know how to go about being the good Jew that they want to be. That they must be, because it's so true. So the Rebbe said, well then, cut to the chase. Don't wait for people to come to yeshiva. Don't wait for people to get a good education. Go straight to, you're a Jew, you want to do Jewish things. Well, here's a mitzvah for you. Start with this one. Put on the tefillin, light Shabbos candle. Put a mezuzah on your door. Send your kid to a Jewish school. Start. It's who you are, it's what you truly want. Well, come, let's do it. Why hesitate? Why wait? That is the power of the Rebbe's message that hasn't gotten any weaker, and it can't get any weaker because truth is truth. Isn't that amazing? Speaking of good news, there's a wonderful retreat coming up, the National Jewish Retreat, run by the JLI, Jewish Learning Institute. It's going to be August 9th through the 14th in the Miami area, in a 5-star hotel, best speakers, best lectures, best classes, best accommodations, and best food. So if you have those 5 days free, or any one of those 5 days free, think about joining us. It's going to be great for body and soul. And there's actually a discount if you put my initials in there, RMF. There's a little discount for those who are already committed, already studying, already interested. Google it, look it up, Jewish Retreat, JLI. And hopefully we'll see you there. If you enjoyed this conversation or this topic and you're looking for more information, or you want to hear it again from another angle, there's a way to do that. And that is in this book. It's all there. Order it from Amazon. You can read it, reread it, and share it. I want to invite you to join us as VIPs, partners in our work, and join us also for a personal chat with other members of the VIP club. We talk about many things. There's an opportunity to ask, to respond, to make a comment, to meet the other supporters. And together we can really make a difference in Jewish life and in life in general. So join us. It's goodtoknow.org. Log in, call, make contact, and join us with the VIPs.